Hey, and welcome to this bonus episode that I've done. I have interviewed Annabel from Annabel's Awareness. It's a short and sweet interview. We're just having a quick look at some recent health problems that she's had and what she's done to overcome them. And I'm talking specifically about what we think is mold toxicity. So if you are someone who suspects that you have mold toxicity or you know that you have had it, please feel free to reach out to her, ask more about her protocol. I'm sure that she can help you. But I'm not going to spoil the interview by telling you everything beforehand, so let's get into it. Hi, Annabelle. Welcome to the show. Very good to have you
Hey,
here.
thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, it's so fun to have you here, and I wanted to have you on for several reasons. One of them is that you're quite young, and you look really, really healthy to me. But I
Oh,
know that
thank
welcome. I know that you have had a bunch of health problems, and that, frankly, from what I know anyway, 25% of the population is susceptible to that, and that's mold toxicity. So I just want to kind of hear a little bit about your story and like when you first started noticing that you weren't kind of feeling well and what that looked like for you.
Yeah, okay, so I have to be honest with you. I'm not even 100% sure what toxin it was, but I'll tell you what happened. So during the summer, I was in Bulgaria for a little bit, and when we were on the coast, everything was fine. It was perfect. In terms of it just, my health was fine, just as it had been before. The only thing though is that I had really bad insomnia for some reason, and that's not like me at all. I sleep like a baby. I normally just, because my diet is so good, I normally just fall asleep in like 5 minutes, and my circadian rhythm is really good. I mean, I've got my blue light blocking glasses on, as you can see, but for some reason in the flat on the coast, I just couldn't sleep. And I did put it down to EMFs because it was a high EMF environment near an airport. And apparently, like, just a lot of EMF stuff was going on around there. And so I was thinking potentially it could be radiation. And it maybe was mold. The only thing I'll say is it might have been some kind of toxin there as well because the apartment smelled like cigarette smoke. So everybody out there smokes like crazy. And you can't get away from the smell of smoke if you're in kind of like an area where you've got a lot of people. So the beach in the summer was obviously packed with people smoking and it was horrible. But then even in the apartment, because people smoking inside, like into the vent, it was going up through the kitchen fan, and it definitely causing some kind of an issue for me. But then when I moved into the village, this was the biggest mistake that I made because I didn't realize this, but the center of Bulgaria is insanely toxic. So it's purely just agriculture. And for some reason, Bulgarians are obsessed with using pesticides on everything and like significant amounts of pesticides. So I I was there, and I mean it smelled like the whole village smelled off, as in kind of like moldy, but just toxic. And I really couldn't put my finger on it. It was disgusting. It could have been something from the pesticides interacting with the ground and potentially creating some kind of a fungus because this was slightly in a dipped kind of valley as well. So essentially all of the toxic air would have been collecting. And yeah, it wasn't just the house, but the whole village smelled insanely bad. And then I still don't know if the house did actually have mold in it or not, but what I'll tell you about it is that the house was basically built with natural materials, but at one point I don't think the roof was kind of done properly, and at one point the walls were wet, like completely wet from the inside, and it started to smell like stale urine, and I knew that was a sign of mold, or at least a potential sign. And then you would have all of these bugs come into the house, and within a couple of minutes they would be dead for no reason, or
Oh,
at least
wow.
no apparent reason. Yeah, so that was a massive red flag too. And then I started to get a tingly tongue, which I knew was a red flag. And my skin started to feel fuzzy and tingly as well. And obviously, another red flag. My sleep was fine, but I would wake up a couple nights feeling like I can't breathe. And obviously, that could have been some fungus or toxin entering my lungs, um, or at least just causing issues in my cavities. So I left, and then when I came back, just to kind of like do an experiment to see how I'd feel being out in the environment. When I came back, it literally felt like my scalp was on fire, and like my cortisol and adrenaline were through the roof. And I knew I had to get out of there, so I did, and essentially didn't look back. And after that, it was just hell in terms of my health. And this happened in August, September. So yeah, sorry, September, I think actually.
Last
Um,
year?
this year, yeah. So last year. So
Mm.
September that we've just had now.
Yeah.
And after that, literally couldn't heal for ages. I mean, it was a massive struggle. I couldn't digest meat. It just felt like it was sitting in my stomach, like, the whole thing, like it hadn't digested, and it felt like I had rocks in my stomach. Um, I was always bloated. I felt obese. I just felt like I'd blown up. I could feel the inflammation in my body. And I did everything. I did charcoal and saunas. I did glutathione IVs, which actually did help. Those did help, but not enough. And other kind of like supplement protocols. I did some massive detox for like the colon and intestines. I literally just hit it from every single angle, but I think I went a bit too invasive. I just had to, try anything and everything. I was in so much pain and so uncomfortable. Um, because I know that mold and parasites come hand in hand. I did a thing that I'm not gonna name, but the thing that was used a lot that works, that's meant for parasites.
Mm-hmm.
And that worked, but again, not enough. And so I was insanely stuck. But I had been speaking to our friend Scott, who told me that I have to work on my limbic system now because my body's under this kind of stress and trauma and fight or flight. And obviously, I knew that was true because no matter what I was doing, it was just like not happening for me. It was like the fire. The inflammation was causing a fire, I guess, so to speak, so big that it was just kind of like pissing on the fire, like you're not going to put it out. Um, and it was just pain and suffering and hell for a long, long time. But the limbic system training significantly helped. But the only caveat to that is that when I was in Estonia, firstly, it wasn't really working as well because I was by myself in Estonia and I wasn't very happy because I felt a bit isolated. I didn't have like a good support system around, didn't have much purpose or motivation, and I was quite stressed anyway. So all of that added up and kind of built on top of it. And then I moved back to the UK, and that's when everything changed for me in terms of my health. And I think that's because I've come into an amazing community and I've started working on a regenerative farm, and I'm spending a lot of my time outside. And with the cows, and essentially, I know this might sound a bit weird, but I'm around poo for most of the day, and that's helping because it's just literally like live bacteria that must be out competing whatever pathogens I've got. And I don't know, it's almost like it is helping, just the whole atmosphere, breathing fresh air, being outside. And one thing I didn't expect that would help me is raw milk. And I don't know if that's just me. I think it's just because with raw milk, again, you have a certain kind of bacteria that outcompetes pathogens. So that could potentially be doing something, and I could feel it acting on my body. So there was an element of that. But I only had it because I know this farmer and I trust him, and it's all regenerative and on the land. So it's just like more like medicine.
Yeah.
But the limbic system retraining and retraining my brain. So obviously that has been the biggest game changer because being here, just being in a different environment and being happy and feeling like I have got a community and purpose, and I'm so much more calm. And it feels like now the things I'm doing are actually working. And I've got some kind of anecdotal evidence or experience of this because when I first got here, I spoke to our friend Dr. Sarah Pugh and asked her for advice on what I should do. And she gave me a bunch of these things to try. So obviously bitters and a binder and methyl B, and just basically glutathione and other things like that. And in the beginning, I wasn't responding very well to them. Like it just wasn't doing much. But now, because my body's in a calm state, I can actually respond to the protocol that she's given me, or at least the supplement she's told me to take and the stuff that I need to do. So that has it has made a difference.
Nice. So when you moved back, when you left Bulgaria, you went back to Estonia straight away?
I went back to Estonia straight away, yeah,
Okay,
because I thought, you know why? My logic behind it was that my house in Estonia was not moldy, and I
right.
needed a safe place where I knew there was absolutely no mold. But we were there. So basically, well, I was there during the winter period, and we have a fireplace, and the fireplace is not great in terms of toxicity, and so that again did irritate me, and I think that might have been also part of the reason why I couldn't heal. So this environmental toxin thing is a massive issue. If you already start going down this rabbit hole and you already get something, you have to be so careful because your body can start to react to anything, even if it's not mold.
Yeah. So when you got back there, like, because you mentioned a few acute symptoms that you had when you were in Bulgaria, what symptoms were you having other than just not being able to digest meat very well that you could
I
like point
Yeah,
out?
I still had that tingly tongue for
Okay.
months and
Oh
months
wow.
on end. It was horrible, and it's like you can feel it, and that was how I knew the toxin hadn't gone, and it's only been in the last month that that's gone. So, it was a really long time of having that symptom, and I kept getting a really itchy scalp and itchy skin periodically. Just, I think it might have been the yeast or something, the fungus dying off, or I'm not really sure because, as I said, I was doing a few things, but they didn't seem to be having that much of an impact, but they did give me some kinds of reactions occasionally. But the tingly tongue was my biggest thing. It just didn't leave.
Wow. That's so strange. So
Yeah.
what symptoms would someone have to look out for if they think that they have mold toxicity or they don't really know what's going on, something weird is happening? What do you know what symptoms are kind of usual?
Yeah, so essentially, well, at least from what I had, it felt like my stomach was expanding, like I had bread in it. Kind of felt like you can't breathe, like something's obstructing your airways. I didn't get a cough, but I think a lot of people might potentially start coughing, feeling like you're wheezing, like your lungs are on fire. I did have that symptom, feel like my lungs were on fire. The tingly tongue is massive. And even Kelly Hogan in one of her Instagram stories said that she was living in a house when she was younger, and that she spent a lot of time in the basement with, I think, other kids, like playing and hanging out there, and it did look like there was mold on the walls, and she had like a metallic taste in her mouth and a tingly tongue or something like that. So this seems to be one of the most common mold symptoms. And then after that, I'd say if you feel like you need to be outside to be able to breathe well, that would be a symptom that your indoor environment is highly toxic.
Hmm. I'm curious, like, did you, because you mentioned the fireplace, like, did that kind of click for you straight away that, oh, maybe I'm not getting better because of that? Or did you just like not really know what was happening when you didn't
In
improve?
the beginning, not really, because I just thought, okay, well, I'm out the mold, so I'm going to heal. And then it was after a while, I just started to think and question it. And I thought, okay, I think this might actually be adding to my toxic burden because I wasn't healing. I was staying stagnant. And some mornings I'd wake up even worse, so just really puffy and swollen and inflamed. And my nutrition was consistent, strict meat, salt, water throughout the whole thing. So obviously it wasn't that, so it had to be something else. And yeah, whenever I did do a fire, it did smell like smoke for a little bit in the house, so I just thought, okay, maybe it's leaking something. And then the other thing is that you can get logs, sometimes they might have mold on them, so then
Yeah,
you don't know what you're releasing into the air. So I stopped using the fireplace, and that did make a difference.
interesting. So one thing that I'm wondering about, because it sounds to me like you would be a hyper responder, because most people wouldn't necessarily get this sick that quickly. Or did you
You
see a
know
lot
what
of
I
other
think?
people?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I thought about that because the landlords of this house never got sick, and they've had hundreds of people stay there. They did Airbnbs and retreats and stuff. No one ever got sick. And I think, and this, well, I don't think I want this to come across better than it might, but I think it's the diet and the nutrition. And I only mean that in the way that when your body is really clean, you just respond to things. And I don't think I would have responded if I would have still had my sick pre-diabetic body, you know, and all of the
Interesting.
hormonal issues. I think because my toxic load would have already been so high, I wouldn't have noticed. But I noticed everything. And, you know, as soon as I cleaned up my diet, I would even then start to respond to things, but in a good way. Like my body would give me these signals very, very quickly to say, you're in danger. And it would even be the slightest things like putting in earrings. If they weren't gold or silver and they were just some kind of cheap metal, my ears would start to itch like crazy and go red around where the earrings were in, and I had to take them out. And my immune system was like, what are you doing? I don't like that. Because it's almost like my body has just become so primed now for the most clean, I guess, luxurious diet of, yeah, carnivore. Or even when I wasn't carnivore, when I was just doing meat and veg still, right? Like it's so clean.
Yeah.
And drinking really good quality water, taking the right supplements when I need them, or when I have been doing that. My body's like a well-oiled machine now, so it just reacts to things that it is supposed to react to. But I think for a lot of people that doesn't happen, and then they might end up with something way worse down the line.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question. Like, even though people are not responding to it, like, are people, because I'm one of these that I'm pretty much the opposite. I don't notice anything, and I think I just have a fast metabolism when it comes to toxins, when it comes to any sort of drugs or whatever. I just metabolize that very quickly. So painkillers don't work very well for me, for example. But do you think like that I would be safe being in that environment, or is it just like a buildup of something and then at some point the bomb is gonna drop and I'm just gonna be really sick?
I think at some point the bomb would drop, because I think it depends on the dose as well. So it depends on what toxin it is. Because at the end of the day, no matter who you are, a toxin is still a toxin. And it's like how we've all got different microbiomes and we've all got different genetic expressions. So you can have two people eating the same diet. And in fact, you can have two sisters eating the same diet, and one of them gets fat and the other one doesn't. Why is that? You know, and living in the same household and everything. And it's just the genetic expression. For the other one, it might impact an organ, or it might impact something else inside the system instead of storing in the fat cells. And so I think that it just depends on how we express things. I know obviously for me, it just, my body reacts straight away, and I think it just tries to get it out, and then I end up getting inflamed very quickly and easily from a toxin. For you, maybe it might be slightly different. Your body might metabolize it quickly, but if you continue to stay in that environment, how much is your body going to be able to eventually detoxify?
Yeah. No, I that's why I can't do experiments on myself. I have to look at what other people are doing
Uh,
and then choose to do what they have seen not being very beneficial for them and just like do whatever is good for them. Because I know that if I did that experiment, it would take me several years to come to the same conclusion. So I'm kind of
wow,
basing everything off of what other people do because I don't respond to anything.
that's incredible. That's really interesting. Have you always been like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Oh, nice. So supplements don't do anything for you. Like if you take something.
I don't notice anything. It's like when I'm taking these like stem cell supplements, for example, I'm taking them as an insurance because I don't
Yeah.
notice anything myself, but I believe that they're going to be good for me. I take magnesium because I think that that probably will help with me not having headaches. Like I just do things because the research has shown that it should be good for me, but I have no way of knowing most of the time. The only biohack that I have ever done that has actually had an impact on me is cold thermogenesis. And that was
Oh,
me laying in a cold bath for 20 to 30 minutes, I think 6 days a week. That gave me so
wow.
much energy, and I could go to the gym and just like wanted to get a new personal best every time I went because I just felt like I didn't need the downtime anymore. But I don't like being immersed in cold water. So I stopped doing that when summer was over. But that really worked for me. But that's the only thing that I can just say, like, this really, really works. Nothing else that I ever tried. It's just like people go on carnivore diet and they're like, oh my God, it's amazing. And I get all these benefits. And I'm like, meh, I don't notice any difference.
But how are you with coffee then? Because you were mentioning about metabolizing things quickly. So I'm
Yeah.
very caffeine sensitive. If I have coffee, I'll feel that dopaminergic reaction very, very quickly. And it will only last a split second. And then 15 minutes later, I'll be so angry and irritated.
Oh wow. No, I don't notice anything. It's like,
Okay.
and I can go sleep straight away after drinking coffee if I want, but I suspect that my
Oh
sleep
no.
quality would be awful, so I don't do that, but I could. Like it doesn't affect me that way. So
Oh, it affects my sleep really
yeah.
badly.
So you're gonna have to be my canary in the coal mine, so I know what I
Yeah.
should be doing.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like the, I mean, I understand that you did a lot of things, and you mentioned a few things like some supplements and protocols that you use. But in terms of effectiveness for you, if someone was having problems with mold toxicity and they don't want to be overwhelmed because there's so many things we could try, what are the top three things that you would recommend that they do?
Well, so everybody says sauna. I wouldn't even necessarily say that. I think that gave me probably the least benefit of everything I tried. I would
Interesting.
say if you have had mold exposure, the key for you would be spend as much of your day and night outside as possible. So if you can't sleep outside, sleep with the windows open. You have to get air into your lungs. I know so many people who have had mold exposure and they've had to sleep in tents for like a year after. You
Wow.
just need to be outside as much as possible because you're going to react to things that you didn't before. So, building materials and fabrics and things that didn't irritate you before, and now your body notices them and sees it as a threat because of this limbic system hyperactive response, right?
Mm,
So I'd say that's the number one is get out, get the hell out and never look back and be outside 24/7 or just at least as much as possible.
yeah.
And even get grounded because that will significantly bring down your inflammation. And then the other thing I would say is in terms of like a supplement or something that would help alongside that is bitters. So some kind of digestive bitters because you really want to mop up all of the toxins within the bile, and then a binder, a really good quality binder. Um, and then the other thing is something like an AMPK activator. So, for example, something like methylene blue, that's literally just to give your mitochondria the energy to be able to help detoxify. But yeah, the key obviously would just be to get out and never look back. And even that will just give you significant results. And then you have to keep a very, very strict and clean diet and drink clean water and stay away from any food that could potentially have mold. So I would literally say very strict carnivore and even get coffee out, even just
Yeah.
for that period of time. So those will kind of be like my top things to essentially start the detox process.
Okay. So when you say digestive bitters and binders, what did you take? Is it
So
something
the
that you
one
want to
that I
recommend?
took was from, yeah, I'd recommend Quicksilver because they've got a digestive bitters. I think it's called like bitters number 9 or something. And I'm still taking it now just because I'm still not 100% digesting things the way I used to. It's gotten significantly better, don't get me wrong. I hardly even feel it now, but still it's not 100% there yet. So I'm still taking that. And then the binder is from Quicksilver as well. And the reason I like it is because it binds everything. It binds any kind of mold toxin as well as heavy metals, pollutions. It's got different strains of binders in there that can target different things. So it's very kind of, I guess, microfiber. So it will really get in and penetrate and bind up the right things.
Okay, cool. And in terms of like calming the nervous system down and the limbic system, what did you do and where did you start with that? Because that can feel, just
So
the name of it feels overwhelming to a lot of people, I think.
So I did DNRS, which is a program, and that's fairly expensive, so you don't have to necessarily do that one. If you want to start and do something cheaper, then I would even just start with meditation or breath work because that will put your body into that kind of parasympathetic rest or digest state. Even just doing something like, yeah, breathing differently. But then what you want to do is make sure that your body understands it's in a state of healing, and all that requires is repetition. So you just basically do visualizations and repetitions and kind of affirmations, that kind of thing, and it does work. And you can go much deeper with it. Those that I'm outlining now are just the very, very basic. the I think cheapest and most effective way to rewire the limbic system would be through our community, because we don't charge a lot, but we offer a lot. And as I said, the DNRS program is fairly expensive, but it only shows one small aspect of brain retraining. Whereas after that, I went and dug much deeper and did other things to be able to get the full benefits and have the full picture rather than just that one aspect, because that only really focuses on changing certain thought patterns and repetition, which is great, but that's only one small part of it. So I think probably joining a community, even if it's not ours, but I think that ours, well, I know I'm biased, but I think it truly is the best, which is why I'm involved. Because we all know and we've been through these things, and we all came from this kind of carnivore health background before anyway. So yeah, having a community is really important. I mean, don't ever undervalue that, because I couldn't heal when I was by myself. I felt such lack of purpose and motivation.
Yeah, and I think that's very common. For those of
Mm,
you who are watching now or listening, maybe if you're in the Facebook group, like one of the most engaging things that we're doing is like just a weekend Zoom hangout. People love it and have made so many friends, and they're so much happier. And then without even me intervening or teaching them a lot of stuff, they just do shit, and they they just stop eating compulsively. All of these things can happen, and it's the same when you're healing. It's just like when you flood your body with feel-good hormones, everything is going to improve, including the
yeah,
limbic system.
exactly. Yeah, and when you feel connection and feel,
Yeah,
happiness, and you can laugh with other people.
yeah, that's what we do. We're being really silly on the Zoom hangouts, just having a good time. But and that's kind of like where we want to come from as well. And for those of you who, when she say we, is because I'm involved as well in the community. And what we're trying to do with this community is actually building up like a very empathetic community of people that are just there to support each other and being completely like non-judgmental and just focused on doing what feels good and what we can do to feel better and heal the whole system. But I know that there are people out there that are probably watching now that are going to be rolling their eyes when you say meditation and breath work. So how does these things actually change our health? Do you want to just
Well,
dig into that a
yeah.
little
So,
bit?
all right. So with breath work, you're changing the way that your body is, well, breathing. I know that sounds obvious, but essentially that changes everything. So if you're taking deeper breaths, it calms down your entire nervous system, um, and it puts your body into a rest or digest state essentially automatically, because you're not hyperventilating and you're taking good quality deep breaths, and you're giving your brain that signal of essentially being calm. And with meditation, that literally changes your brain waves. You go into a completely different state, because we've obviously got alpha, beta, gamma, and we're constantly in the state where we're, I guess, alert and hyperactive and vigilant. So again, a slightly elevated stress state. But then with meditation, we calm down our brain and we put it into this kind of very receptive state where we're able to receive information. And that's really when all of the rewiring can happen.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good explanation. Good and short. We're keeping it short today.
Yeah.
So, if people want to join us, do you want to share that? Where can
Yeah.
they do that? How much does it cost? What's happening?
Well, March obviously is free. We've spoken about this in a lot of interviews. March is free, so it doesn't matter if you've already missed a couple days or a few weeks. You can still join and get your free whatever is left and gain value. But from April onwards, it is $75 a month unless you've got an affiliate code, and we have plenty of affiliates around. And then that would be 10% off your first month. And then after that, it's $75 a month. And we do 5 classes a week. We've got coaches who have used limbic system retraining to rewire their brains. And we've got coaches who have experience in things like psychology and healing movements, somatic exercises, and then, you know, Pim, obviously, who's got experience in addiction, so carb addiction, sugar addiction, but also addictive behaviors, and understands that kind of neurochemistry. Myself, I'm a coach, and I also, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, have my own experience in this. So the team is amazing, and yeah, 5 classes a week, guest speakers as well. So Bart K will be on, and amongst other amazing guest speakers who are already out there, have their platforms and helping people heal, but you'll have kind of a more direct contact with them. And you need to go to limbic-training.com or limbic-training.com. Same thing really. And then sign up from there. You don't have to enter your card details at the moment or anything. You just sign up, put in your email address, and then you will be invited into the community and have access to all of the classes and be able to ask us anything you need.
Yeah. And one thing with the community that I think is worth mentioning, I know that a lot of your followers, a lot of my followers, they are either very keto or very carnivore. But this community is not just about diet. It's very little about diet. There will be classes where someone might be talking about nutrition, and we might have someone coming in and doing some cooking demonstrations and whatever. But on the whole, it's a healing community that is geared towards anyone who feel like they are stuck in this state where they have some sort of illness. It's not just mold toxicity. We are looking at all sorts of inflammatory conditions that don't go away. So if you're
Yeah.
watching this and you feel like, well, I'm not a carnivore, I can't join, it doesn't matter because we're not
No,
just
you can
stuck.
be anyone with a
Yeah,
brain.
exactly. If you have a brain and you're suffering, you want to change that, then just join. And it's free in March, so
Yeah.
you have nothing to lose. Just try it out, see what you think. And we're going to make a lot of changes. And in April, we're also going to have a body up system. So you're never going to have to be alone. You will, if you want to be bodied up with someone, you will have a body in there so that you always have support.
Yeah. It's very interactive. The whole thing is incredibly interactive.
Yeah. I think it's amazing already, but it's going to get even better when we
Yeah.
know exactly what we want to do with it, and when we get some structure and some feedback, and we see how things are working out as well. So,
Yeah, exactly.
Annabelle, where can people find you if they want to connect with you, or maybe go to your YouTube channel and look at what you are actually putting out there?
Yeah, so if you want to see me hanging out with cows, you can go to my YouTube and Instagram. And I do still do interviews as well. And it is both Annabelle's Awareness, so that's for YouTube and Instagram.
Awesome. Any last words you want to share with anyone who's especially suffering from mold toxicity?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you need to reach out to me or anybody else who might know a thing or two, because you won't be able to heal alone, like we've said. And yeah, just don't take for granted the help or even just communication with another person. And my final words, I guess, especially would just be March is free for the community. So, you know, join and make the most of it.
Yeah, and you can connect with Annabelle in there as well. So
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much for being on my channel. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.